Okay, we'll have Jio Financial Services start trading in about 8 minutes or so. Sriram Velayudhan is Vice President Alternate Research at IIFL Securities. Prakash Diwan is joining us, and we also have Gurmeet Chadha, Managing Partner and CIO at Complete Circle Consultants, joining us. Gentlemen, great to have all of you here. Gurmeet, to you first. I mean, your assessment of where this should settle down post the listing. I think that's what we need to kind of focus on here. Any thoughts around this new listing?
Eagerly looking forward to it, Prashant. So there are three bases to value it. One is, that 6.1% stake, and you have to ascribe some holding company discount to it. Second, it's lendable net worth. If you see, it's about 22,000 crores. If you take the cost value and the other liquid transfer which has happened in the entity, which means for next 2-3 years, it can build a lending book of roughly about $14-15 billion without really having to, dilute anything or raise more capital. And I think it will get a book value similar to what a Bajaj or Chola gets, because it would be more a digital lender to probably grow at a much faster rate. So I think the current price looks roughly around that. I think you can value it around that. And I think this is probably more new age. So probably you have to look at it more like what Alibaba had or Amazon had. Alibaba had, and obviously the IPO got delayed. And, the way the new age, this is actually more new age if you were to compare it with the more lenders. And I think they're clearly focusing on more consumer lending and MSME to begin with, which is high growth, high margin. But I think it will take time, Prashant. You suddenly don't expect it to become 1 lakh crore AUM. It just has, for example, 30 people in collection. It will take a lot of time to build branches, get that infrastructure in place. Lending is a very different game.
So, Gurmeet, as of now, you don't see any major threat to some of the incumbent players, right? I'm just asking from an investor and a stock market angle. How do you approach the other players when such a large, perhaps disruptive player enters the market?
It could be margin dilutive in certain segments. I don't think so they're going to do mortgage immediately. So I don't think so, really banks have too much to. But few NBFCs, it could be margin dilutive in few pockets, let's say micro lab, bit of personal loan on a particular CIBIL score, or used car loans. They could be a little disruptive. Also in consumer durable, they will want to leverage that segment. But the market is too big, Sonia. That's what I'm saying. They will take probably some time to get to 50,000, 60,000 crore of loan book. So let's say to get to $10-15 billion, unless they do, inorganic acquisition, which, they are capable of. So I would subscribe to it thinking that this has the potential, right database, huge, very good team they are building. Very impressed with the team. Not only just Hitesh and Mr. Kamath, but I think the team they're trying to build on the ground is very good. So I would be an investor in it, but not from immediate gain perspective. I think it will take time. Lending business takes a lot of time.
All right. Hi, Gurmeet. Good morning. Gurmeet, just to press home the point, so in the near term, well, they'll have to still grow the business. But where do you think the risk will be more at a later date? Because this is a big company coming in there into the financial services space. Everyone's talking about the NBFC space. But do you think the AMC space actually will face a bigger threat because of the brand value that the conglomerate has?
Not really, Nigel. See, BlackRock also came in earlier, and they'll probably be more disruptive on passive side. Not as much as active. Active takes time. You need to build performance over a period of time. There is Bajaj Finserv already, which has just come in, and there are a host of others. So AMC business also takes time to get profitable. In fact, if you see out of 30 odd AMCs, barely 10, 12 are profitable. And probably the top 5 would take about 70-80% of the profit share. So I think all these businesses, they will incubate insurance, asset management, lending. They are backdated. They take time to get profitability. Also, the market would want to see return ratios, right? What the return ratios are. You ascribe 5 to a Bajaj or to 4.1 to a Chola on FY25 on 20-25% return ratios. So that takes time. The collection infrastructure takes time. But as I said, the focus is MSME and consumer lending. It's high margin. And they can grow it really fast, 30-40%. So they will be clubbed with, the new age guys more than the traditional NBFCs.
All right, Gurmeet, I think you have to run. So thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you sort of joining us on the program. Sriram is with us, and so is Prakash. Sriram, from a near-term perspective, I think some 4,000 crores worth of selling is expected from passive funds.
Yeah, Prashant, good morning. Yes, you are right. In terms of an impact, Nifty and Sensex benchmark passive funds will be selling aggregated in terms of dollar million, it amounts to roughly $500 million worth of selling in Jio Financial Services that we are likely to see. So in terms of the global indices, MSCI has already decided to JFS as a part of the standard in cap category. So it largely becomes a neutral event because assets who are holding Reliance Industries will be entitled for JFS. With clarity on listing coming into place on Friday, FTSE indices also decided to retain JFS, Jio Financial Services in the FTSE Cap, All World and the other indices. So largely the selling impact is likely to be in the domestic funds. Passive basically.
Okay. Okay, got that, Sriram. We just have a little over a minute, I think, before the listing comes through. So, Prakash Diwan, let me squeeze this in very quickly. I think the larger question is, can Jio Financial replicate the kind of success that they've seen in the telecom and the retail business, right? Because it's not so easy, as Gurmeet was also telling us earlier. What is your own view on how things could play out?
So absolutely, Sonia. I think financial services, especially when you enter the entire gamut of lending, asset management, insurance, there's lots that needs to be created in terms of the support system, and that is what organically takes time. Once that is in place, I think the kind of scale that they're starting off with will help them reach levels of a book or business that's probably taken much longer for a lot of the competitors to reach. So from that perspective, it's going to be money well spent. Whatever money you spend, the velocity of money, the way it's being used for building this business is going to be far more effective than a lot of other businesses. So I definitely feel for somebody who's wanting to participate in the Indian financialization story, there's no better way than participating in a JFS stock. So, that's what it gives you with clear visibility, though not immediate, not short term, but in the medium to long term, it definitely offers much more than what you would probably buy into some other of the listed names. Of course, there'll always be questions around whether they'll be able to do it well and effectively and all, but I'm sure given their past track record, there's nothing much to doubt.
All right. I think there you go. That's the listing coming through 17 years after the last listing from the Reliance stable. That was back in 2006. I think we've got Jio Financial Services making it to the market at 262 rupees per share, which is exactly at the discovered price, which was 261.85. It's basically around 265 right now. You can see the top team, including Mr. Kamath there, ringing the bell, ringing the stock into the listed space. And there you go. Just like that, you've got one more stock from the Reliance stable out there in the market, listed, Jio Financial Services. So, as I said, it's been almost 2 decades. Reliance Petroleum was the IPO which came through in 2006. And that was the last one from the Reliance stable. And now you've got Jio Financial Services in the market. I think more pictures coming through at this point in time.
Well, big moment there. In fact, we have Jio Financial Services that has listed. And to give you a couple of data points, the market capitalization is around 1.68 lakh crore. It becomes the 32nd most valuable company on the Indian Bourses itself in the first minute of listing. So that's one big takeaway out there. 32nd in terms of market capitalization, ranking on market capitalization. And for today, as well as the next few sessions, that's for the next 10 trading sessions, I think, the stock will be in the 5% circuit limit. So just keep that in mind as well.
So, just to actually take that point forward, Nigel, let me ask Sriram. Sriram, the rule says that the stock has got to, by the way, we will cut across to when I think there will be a sort of brief address, I think, maybe an opportunity for questions, so we'll cut across to it. But Sriram, it says for 2 days, it's got to trade 2 days without hitting a circuit, right? So that's today and tomorrow. And then on Wednesday evening, it can be removed from the indices, from the Nifty, etc. So that's a 5% circuit? Is that how this will work?
Correct. Right, Prashant, you are right. So provided it doesn't hit circuit today and tomorrow, it will be deleted from Nifty Sensex and other.
Oopsie.
Sorry, I think we lost the line there. Sriram, are you there? Okay, I think we
All
lost
right.
it.
So just to tell our viewers that currently
Yeah.
you have 51 stocks in the Nifty because of this corporate action. But in the next 2 days, if it doesn't hit circuit, Jio Financial Services will make its way out of the Nifty. That's because of the revision in rules that came about by the National Stock Exchange earlier this year itself. And it could possibly make a re-entry. But the re-entry could be at a little later date because first it needs to be eligible to trade in the F&O market. Then it will be followed by a re-entry into the Nifty. So that's the other clause in there, along with the other clause with regard to the average turnover that will be traded along with the market capitalization as well. Market capitalization, it fits the bill, but for it to get into the Nifty, it'll have to, get into the F&O market as well.
Nigel, the last review, the half-yearly review happened, I think, just last week. So the next one, 6 months out, maybe in February or whatever, right? Unless, of course, something else goes out and then they consider it's happened before. According to eligibility, and the space, it can make its way back. Most surely, I think it will. I think Prakash is still with us. Prakash, first thoughts? We've got a new Reliance stock at about, 251 as we speak?
Yeah, and the first one with the Jio moniker, so that's more exciting. So and probably a couple of years back, nobody would have thought that Jio Telecom might not get listed as quickly as Jio Financial Services. So this is what happens in markets. They're so dynamic, but also given the fact that apart from this passive selling, selling by the passives, which is likely to be done to adjust their own weightages and all, you'll probably start seeing the stock stabilize in a while before people start allocating actively to the stock, and that's going to be interesting, Prashant. And I think by next Monday, same time, we'll probably be also much more well informed about the plans going ahead and the timelines possibly when Mr. Ambani addresses the AGM. So that's going to be the key thing. So till then, you probably just kind of let it settle and do its own thing. Yeah.
Also, Prakash, now every time Reliance reports their numbers, you will have a lot more of us sitting there analyzing the numbers, right? You'll have oil and gas, telecom, retail, and now JFS as well. So it's going to be a longer show perhaps. But jokes apart, the larger question, I guess, is, there will be a broad range of services that they will offer. And now with this listing, they've created the 5th largest financer in terms of capital and a direct contender against, these prominent names like Paytm, Bajaj Finance, etc. One last word from your end. Of course, more details awaited at the AGM. But from this 1.1 lakh crore book, how much do you think the growth can be for them? And what do you do with some of the other players now, the likes of Bajaj Finance, etc., as an investor?
So, I think it's going to be a bit too early to compare JFS with the likes of Bajaj Finance at this point in time. And, even going ahead, Sonia, JFS is likely to be a composite of quite a few things. Whereas, Bajaj Finance is probably only into consumer credit, largely, or you have a Paytm, which is more of a payment bank-led, platform-based lending. Jio could probably do much more than all of these put together. So there's going to be like a sum of parts, and there's going to be, in isolation, some of these focus businesses. So I think as a stock picker, you would be better off buying into a Jio Financial Services, because you really don't know which part of the business is likely to do well. So whether a Bajaj Finance has a phase which is very growth oriented, or whether a Paytm makes a comeback. But within Jio Financial Services, you would get lots of other businesses to be thrown in, and that makes it much more balanced. So I think it's going to be the perfect balanced growth vehicle for your exposure to financial services in India, undoubtedly. And to the question on how soon they can kind of leverage this size, I think the book will probably take time, and it's going to be, as I keep on saying, it's going to be much faster than what others have done to reach a certain scale. I would believe they'll probably do what Bajaj Finance has done in a matter of few years. Bajaj has taken a decade and a half of sorts to really grow. Same thing is for the asset management business. They could probably grow very soon, very fast, because of the focus on passive funds. You really don't need much of a head start in terms of performance, track records, and distribution networks and all that. You leverage on technology, leverage on your database, and that's how you grow. So all these businesses are going to be fast growth areas, very promising, very balanced. it's definitely something which people will should take advantage of.
Okay, Prakash, thanks a lot for joining in. And that's the big headline right now. Jio Financial Services has finally debuted on the stock markets, creating the 5th largest financer in terms of capital. Let's slip into a quick break now. On the other side, Mitesh Thakkar joins in for some technical trades. Stay tuned.